Hello, my sexy aliens, and boy, do I have a horoscope for you this week, so buckle up. We are going to go over all of the transits happening this week, at least I'm pretty sure most of them. Okay, we have some really interesting ones, like Venus finally moving out of Aries and moving into Taurus, her home sign. A few big transits that we are on the build up for right now, okay? And I don't want you to skip ahead, but just so you know, we are going to be briefly going over some of what these things are bringing for your rising sign at the very end of this video, so stay tuned for that. I am likely not going to be editing this video very much because I really don't have time. Still have family in town right now as of when I'm filming this, so I don't have too much time to edit, but yeah, hopefully after this week we will be back to normal programming. So alrighty, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up my screen so we can just hop right into this biatch, okay? And if I sound a little bit weird, it's because I do sound a little bit weird. I got some kind of like weird like cold bug thing. I don't know, like it never got really bad, but I just mainly felt it in the mornings. But I'm starting to kind of get over that now, so it's just like making my voice sound a little bit weird. Okay, let's get into it. Doesn't it feel like I feel like I have not seen you guys in like a month, even though it's only been a week, okay? Time has just been moving that fast with all the planets going direct, and I know I said that it would, but still, it just never ceases to amaze me how fast things move when all the planets are direct, other than Pluto, okay? Other than Pluto, but yeah, it's just crazy. Things are flying by. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the chart. We're going to pull this bad boy up here and go ahead and get into it for the second time now because I already started this and realized I wasn't filming. But what I really wanted to talk about is the lead up to where we are now, and it goes into the start of this week, and so it's important, okay? What I want to talk about is this time period that we are in. And because one of the significant things of this week is Venus, okay? Venus has been in Aries and she's leaving Aries this week and moving into Taurus. And Venus has been in Aries teaching us lessons since February of this year. Okay, she went back into Pisces for a very short period, and then she moved back into Aries, and we have been learning lessons. We've been learning lessons in terms of where we have failed to bet on ourselves, where we have failed to not see our own value, where we have failed to not go after the things that we want, where we have failed to basically go after our desires. Venus in Aries has been teaching us a lot about going after our desires, going after our own sense of independence, and not basing so much of what we want or what we're doing or our lives on other people. It's basically been kind of like a selfish era. It's like, this is my chance to focus on me and what I want instead of what everybody else expects of me or what everybody else wants. And so it's really showed us where we've kind of had these unhealthy habits or behaviors in our lives of not going after the things that we desire, not going after the things that we want, and where we've had to become more aware of our own personal individual desires, even if those desires are confrontational, even if those desires cause controversy or conflict or make us uncomfortable or make other people uncomfortable. Okay, it's really showed us where we have this relationship with what we desire and conflict. It's like where we shut down what we want to avoid conflict, right? Where we don't want to go after the things we want or embody what we want or do the things that we want because of how other people may see us, or because it's going to cause some kind of friction with another person because it may not be what they want or what is going on with them. And so that's basically been a lot of what Venus has been teaching us in Aries. She's also been teaching us how to flirt with the conflict, how to flirt with the conflict basically, and not allow it to be this like negative thing. Like, conflict doesn't have to be this intense, scary thing. And I know even for me, like as a Libra sign, conflict is something I am not good at, but it shows up on my doorstep a lot because I can either look at that as like, oh, well, it sucks, like my life sucks, conflict keeps finding me in some way, somehow, or I can look at that as like, it's teaching me how to be comfortable with conflict and also how to not take on other people's shit. And that's so much of what this is about. And I think what Venus and Aries has been about, it's like in order for you to realign to the things that you desire and the things that you want to actually live your life more in alignment with you and what you want, you've got to let go of some shit. You've got to let go of like fearing conflict, for instance. You've got to let go of being uncomfortable if other people aren't happy that you're going after what you want. You got to let go of what other people want, basically. It's like it's been showing us where our desires are in conflict with other people's desires, and then we repress our desires, and then we're not fulfilled because we've been repressing our desires. I've seen this over and over and over and over again with my clients, with people that have gotten readings with me, like with friends. I've seen it in myself, in my own life. I've seen it like literally everywhere. And this is the main thing that I keep telling people. And Venus and Taurus is when Venus moves into Taurus this week, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. It's going to be very representative of this, okay? The main thing I keep telling people, how to deal with this Venus and Aries energy. And as Venus is closing out Aries, we're kind of like realizing all these lessons this week. All these lessons are kind of coming to a head or coming full circle or coming into like a combination point where we're maybe really realizing where we've closed off our hearts because of old combative, confrontational, like betrayals, etc., and therefore we've learned to put what we desire, what we want on the back burner, okay, to sacrifice that for other things like safety or validation or acceptance or peace or whatever the case may be. But what this is really about, and what I've told so many of the clients that I've been working with, because it's what I've had to do, okay, it's like, number one, you've got to find out what your values and your priorities are. Because it doesn't really matter if other people in your life like it or not. Like if you're not in alignment with your values and your priorities and what you truly want for yourself, if you're not listening to yourself, you're not going to really be you. And so you may be you may be sacrificing your desires to keep peace in your relationships or to keep peace with the people around you, but then you're living a unfulfilled life and they're getting a version of you that isn't the real you. And so you're teaching those around you to accept somebody that you're not. That's why people are going to get a little bit shaken up when you decide to go after what you want, because they've learned to accept a part of you or versions of you or whatever that were not really you. So yeah, they might get a little bit shaken up when you shift your energy and you start focusing on what you desire and you start focusing on what you want. But then you really know, like, okay, if they can eventually accept this or, support me in this, then they truly actually want what's best for you too, and truly believe in your power. If not, then that's a whole different scenario, like that may be something you have to reflect further upon. Can they handle you and trust in your power and trust in your heart's desires and trust in what you want, right? A lot of the times, even if they can't though, it's not a you problem. It's not personal. It's more about them, right? But anyway, if somebody, and here's the thing, I feel like so many of these lessons have been really about us saying no to picking up other people's stuff, okay? If your ex, comes over to maybe get things, that he left there, right? And as he comes over, he decides to throw some emotional daggers at you and be like, yeah, well, this wouldn't be happening if you weren't so XYZ. It's all your fault, right? You can either choose in that moment to take that in, to take what he said and be like, you know what, yeah, I'm horrible, or you know what, screw you, and and get emotional too. Or you can hold your power in that moment and choose not to pick up what he's putting down. And a great example of this is, like I've been saying, I have family in town, my grandmother's in town, and she can be a little bit difficult sometimes to deal with. And so I've been going through a lot of tests in the last week. And I said last week, the sun is in Gemini right now. Be curious, treat things as an experiment. But this energy is a little bit tricky. We can either look at things as an experiment and be curious and kind of have fun and be lighthearted, be in the light energy, not take things too seriously. Or this can get very annoying and feel very chaotic, busy, anxious, and that's when we're no longer plugged into game mode and we are plugged into stress mode, basically. Okay, we're in our minds, we're following all these stories that likely aren't even accurate. And I call it mind on crack, basically. Your mind starts feeling like it's on crack, or it's been microwaved, it's like popcorn, you've got thoughts here, thoughts there, telling you all kinds of things that you don't want to hear. And you feel like crap and you start spiraling and you're like, oh, your mind starts barking at you like a freaking chihuahua and it won't shut up, right? That is the other side of this energy, where it can feel frustrating, annoying, it's just getting under your skin, you're anxious, there's too much happening at once. And I was starting to feel that way last week. I talked about it in my last video. And then And then I caught myself and I was like, you know what? I can either drown in all of this like energy, you know, like I can drown in all, because Gemini is a mutable sign. It's literally duality in thought, duality in the mental realm, duality with people, duality with conversation, duality with everything, right? It's dual. So, and that can start getting very freaking frustrating, right? It can start feeling like there's a lot of contradictions. There's a lot of things that aren't making sense. There's a lot of things just everywhere. There's a lot of things. And we can either completely get enraged by it and lose our absolute shit, or we can stay plugged into the game of Gemini, which is being like a butterfly, being like a flirty little butterfly, okay? And flying around and knowing that this is going to pass. This moment is not even certain right now. What is happening in Gemini season, there's nothing certain right now. You cannot say for certain anything right now, okay? Every moment's going to change. Plans are going to change. People's feelings are going to change. Your feelings are going to change. It's okay. Don't take it too seriously. Live moment to moment. Learn to laugh about it. I was starting to get stressed out, like I said last week, and then something kind of hit me. Again, Venus. What are my real priorities? What do I really want? I thought what I wanted was to have time to work, and that all these things were now, you know, on my schedule, and all this family stuff was like on my schedule, and I wanted more time to work because I was really in my work groove, and, you know, like all of that. I wanted more time to focus on my work. But then I really realized that like my actual priority, like if I zoomed out and looked at everything, was actually spending time with my family, because that week there's so many important events happening. My sister graduating high school, you know, my grandmother being in town and she's getting older, you know, like my son's birthday at the end of last week. Like there's just so many things that it's like I could either go through this week and be all stressed out and be annoyed because there's so much freaking going on, or I could focus on the beauty of this, which is the fact that I value these relationships and I value my family, and I would rather enjoy these moments rather than think about work the whole time and feel like I'm missing out on something just because I didn't do a video, you know, like, and be all mad about that, right? It's like for a moment, I was not even looking at something through my own truth or through my own true aligned mindset. I was looking at it from a mindset that really wasn't aligned in my truth or within my values, you know. It's just like more so about like, oh, I just want to keep my flow going. And that was really coming from fear anyway. It was coming from the fear that, oh, if I mess up my flow, then bad things are going to happen. You know, like a story I was telling myself, right? And that's really what it all comes down to, is like, be open-minded. Allow your mind to be flexible right now. Allow your mind to be flexible right now. Because once I allowed my mind to be flexible and I let go of my ideas about how I wanted it to go, and I let go of my expectations, and I let go of like that whole mindset that I had, and I realized that this was the more aligned mindset anyway. This was the more like the bigger priority anyway, was like spending this time with my family and having these moments with my family, because like, you know, again, like that's what was more of the priority. And I can either go through this week miserable because I didn't get, you know, the time I wanted to work, or I can have fun with it. And so I just decided to have fun with it and enjoy it. And the week went so much more better. It was still busy, but it went so much better than if I would have went in with that whole other mindset. You know, like it would have, like, I would have been ruining my week myself. I would have chosen at that point to ruin my week and focus on the stress. And this is what I'm talking about. With Gemini, it's like, you've got to allow yourself to be curious. You've got to treat things like a game. Like, you know, we're having fun. It's not that serious. Like, it's an experiment. Let's see what happens. Like, maybe it doesn't work out. Okay, then we learn something. Maybe it does. Cool. Okay. Like, literally treat your freaking life like you're having like a bit of an experiment right now. Like, I'm experimenting with this, seeing how this goes. I don't need to make up my mind right now. I don't need to be certain on anything right now. I don't need the pressure of needing to make some kind of huge life-altering decision right now, right? Like, it's like, allow your mind to be flexible. Okay, because that's really what this is. I've seen a lot lately, a lot of themes in the collective, and this is going to go into basically the start of this week now, and where we're starting this week, which is on the 4th, which is Wednesday, and we're going to be feeling it by the start of this week anyway, Venus is going to sextile Jupiter right as she's at the end of Aries. And this goes into a lot of like energy I've seen lately, a lot of traits I've seen lately in terms of glamorizing challenge, glamorizing risk, glamorizing like just flirting with danger, flirting with fun, flirting with, or having fun, like playing games with like, that normally would be thought of as like risky or like whatever, right? And it's like instead, like you're being flirtatious with it. I've seen so much of that in the collective. And I really feel like this Jupiter Venus sextile from Gemini to Aries is really about this. It is really about, it's like, dude, it's just a game. Like, yeah, maybe it didn't work out exactly the way that you wanted, or yeah, maybe things aren't going exactly as you planned, because again, these two planets are in signs that they are in detriment in. Venus is in detriment in Aries, Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini, but it doesn't mean that they don't have valuable lessons to teach us. And this sextile is kind of like, I can flirt with my life and play games, and kind of look at this as like an experiment, a game, and not take it so seriously, right? Like I can kind of look back on all these like little things, and I can see that it's all worked out. I can see that, if I take it just one moment at a time, or if I live more in the moment, that it all somehow works out. The more that I stress, the more that I worry, the more that I tell myself that I need to figure this out because there's some kind of expiration date on XYZ, like that doesn't feel good in our bodies for a reason. It feels stressful for a reason because it is. And so this Venus Jupiter sextile is kind of like, okay, sometimes we get so zoomed in to our character. Like if we're like, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was talking to one of my clients about this as well, but sometimes we get so zoomed in to like our own perspective here on Earth, right? It's almost like think of like you're playing a video game, right? And I'll think of you playing the video game as almost like your higher self, right? And in the video game, your character is you right now watching this video, right? The human you. Sometimes we get so like plugged into the character perspective, the human perspective, that we forget that we're playing a game. And so when you zoom out and you look at your life and you look at yourself from the higher perspective, the higher self, the one playing the game, and you look at things like, okay, well, if your character needs to learn certain lessons or learn certain skills to advance to the next level, what would they be dealing with? What are you going through in your life right now that you're dealing with that could be helping you gain those lessons or gain those skills or learn those things, right? And so Jupiter in Gemini is really interesting because it is in detriment, because it likes to look at the bigger picture. Gemini likes to magnify. But it's like through magnifying on the small stuff, we are able to fit it. It's like a puzzle, right? The big finished puzzle is Jupiter, but the little puzzle pieces are Gemini. And it's like we can't see the bigger picture without like really getting some of those smaller pieces together. And so it's like one step at a time, not looking at the whole staircase, all of that kind of thing. And so anyways, but we come into that energy at the beginning of this week. And then, and again, that's going to be on Wednesday, we have Venus sextiling Jupiter, which is just giving us like a little bit of like, and again, we're probably already even feeling this kind of game energy. Like there's this Netflix show that I started watching, and I guess it's like a live action version of like an anime show or something, but it's called Bet. And that game or that show, I think is very Venus and Aries, maybe even some Neptune, Saturn and Aries, and Jupiter and Gemini. It's like, flirtatious, all about games and all about like, just like almost like seeing risk as like, just this, and challenge is like this, like, flirtatious thing, like this just like juicy thing that you can't get enough of. Now, obviously that that show does go to some extremes to where it, there's other lessons in that I think, are not completely, that I'm not completely talking about here, but because there's something to be said about risk versus reward. There's something to be said about, taking risk. And then also there's time periods where it's like, I've been through time periods where risk does not feel like the right move, like, so I'm not completely saying that I agree with everything in that show, but more so just the kind of energy, the game playing, flirtatious energy, glamorizing challenge, glamorizing kind of risk, and just the inevitable flexibility of life, like not always knowing how things are going to turn out and actually finding fun in that rather than needing things to be a certain way all the time, needing things to have some kind of rigidity and rules and structure all the time. And so anyway, moving on to Thursday this week, we're going to then have Venus enter Taurus, her home sign. And this is definitely going to be a shift, a change in the collective, a change in tone. We have had Venus in Aries, where it's been like feeling almost like we have to fight for what we want. We have to fight for what we desire, because once we claim it, it feels like other people have a problem with it, or it conflicts with what other people want, or whatever the case may be, or we have to confront some kind of edgy conflict, or whatever the case may be. It feels like maybe we've learned a lot of tough, edgy, conflicting lessons in relationships and money and love and romance and our own desires and going after what we want. And so, Venus has definitely been in detriment in Aries, but we've still learned a lot here. It doesn't make our lessons not valuable, right? Because those lessons are true. There are times where you do need to look out for yourself. There are times where you do need to focus on what you desire instead of outsourcing your desires because you're more worried about peace or, fitting in or safety or whatever the case may be. But now that we have a clear idea of what we want and what we desire, and we have faced a lot of these challenges in terms of those things, Venus then moves into Taurus, and these steady, earthly, kind of more grounded energy of Taurus, that is kind of like the Garden of Eden, is how I think of Taurus a lot, right? Venus moves into Taurus, where she can be the goddess that she is. She can lay there, kind of sit there naked, like eat some grapes, and it's like she has kind of had to go through her warrior phase, and now she's like in her, I am at home, I am surrounded by beauty, I'm surrounded by nature, I am surrounded by things that feel good, taste good, look good, smell good. And we really start coming into our senses with Venus and Taurus, because that is how we experience reality. That is how we experience what our preferences are, what we like and what we don't like, through our eyes, our nose, our ears, our taste, our touch. We learn that we like, the feeling of this, and then we learn that we like the look of that, and we learn that we like the sound of that and the taste of that, etc., and the smell of that. And so this really becomes kind of Venus and Taurus. It's like we're able to kind of take off our armor a little bit. We're able to kind of let go of some of the confrontation, the friction that we've been feeling in terms of what we want or what we desire, or it feeling a little bit feisty, or it feeling a little bit like fierce or edgy or frisky or like whatever, in terms of like what we want and like feminine energy and what we desire in relationships and stuff lately. And then Venus moves into Taurus, where it's like, okay, we can slow down. We can feel how good things feel. We can taste how good things taste. We can see how good things, how things look. We can really it's almost like coming home after being gone in like another city that you weren't familiar with, that was completely different to your own, and you had to learn the ropes and learn what stores had the things that you wanted, and you had to learn what places were good to stay and what weren't, and it was like just a lot of stuff you had to learn, and it brought up like a lot of friction, because maybe you stayed in places you didn't quite like or you weren't quite comfortable in. Maybe you went to go to the store to get like your favorite foods and they didn't have them, and so now Venus coming into Taurus is like coming home to your hometown. Where your favorite grocery is, where your favorite coffee shop is, where your favorite store is to get new clothes or whatever you need. Like, you get to walk in your door and smell your own scent and your own favorite, smells, and like lay on your own comfy couch or in your own comfy bed and put on your favorite slippers and your favorite robe and take a shower in your shower, like all of that, right? Like, that's Venus and Taurus. Like, all of a sudden it starts feeling like, you know what? I have been through a lot. I've tried some things on. I've had to get really like clear and assertive when it comes to what I want and what I value and what I desire. I've had to like realign with that, even though it's been confrontational. And now in Taurus, it's like we are enjoying the fruits of that, or we are planting that, right? This is where we start kind of worrying about what we want to create and what we want to build, right? Because this is earth energy. Venus moving into Taurus is like, okay, what's my next step in terms of my finances? What is my next step in terms of my relationships? Or what is my next step in terms of the career that I want to create? Or what is my next steps in terms of the things that I desire and that I've realized that I've wanted from the sign of Aries? What is that next step? How do we ground that into reality now? How do we plant those seeds and grow those fruits? For other people that you feel like you've already kind of chosen, or you've already done the work, or you've already done those things, you've already decided and taken action on it, then it's like this is you kind of potentially enjoying those rewards, enjoying the fruits of your labor, right? It's going to be different for different people. Maybe there's just been so much conflict and all that you still haven't gotten truly clear on what you desire. And so Venus and Taurus finally helps you do that. It finally softens some of that conflict and helps you sink into, your feminine energy again and open your heart again, and you start realizing again what it is that you do truly want, what it is that is beautiful to you. This is us getting very clear on our priorities and grounding them into reality. This is us like actually really getting clear on what is of quality to us. What is more important to us? What are our priorities? What are our values in terms of what we want? And is our lives, our surroundings living in accordance to that? Okay? So that is very much Venus and Taurus. It's very like a goddess energy, like Eve energy, like just really like feeling into the sensuality aspect of Venus and Taurus, because again, Taurus is an earth sign, so this is what you can see, feel, and touch. So these are going to be things that we desire, that we manifest, that we magnetize, that we are playing with, that are going to be very much so related to physical things that we are building. A job, a career, a house, a new car, something material, right? What are we doing with the things that we have realized that we've wanted? How are we birthing them into the physical world? That is Venus and Taurus. This is Gaia energy, bringing it in through the earth womb, literally like birthing something new into the physical world. Right? Because right before every birth, there's contractions, Aries, right? There's like friction, okay? This is the birth. This is where it's like, okay, like I can breathe again and I can enjoy, whatever it is I just created or whatever it is I'm in the process of creating, right? And so this is very much what I think we're going to be feeling once Venus moves into Taurus. But as Venus moves into Taurus, she is then going to, unfortunately, square Pluto in Aquarius. Now, this won't be exact until next week, but we'll definitely probably start feeling it right when Venus moves in on Thursday. Now, what I feel about this, we've had some squares already from Taurus to Aquarius, and it seems like this has been a lot about, again, what we desire, want, or what we've been doing or what we've been manifesting or what our goals are in terms of the material world, whether it's more income, money, business, relationships, love, house, car, whatever. All of that, our quality of life, our own definition of wealth, which may not even be physical things, doesn't even have to necessarily be physical things, maybe more health, physical embodiment, things like that, versus society's kind of definition of it. A few weeks ago, I think I just said fuck accidentally, but a few weeks ago, I was talking about, I think it might have been like Mercury in Taurus, square Pluto in Aquarius. I can't remember which planet it was, but I used this kind of analogy is like being at like a dinner party where it's like very, formal and, very like there's like, you've got to have like some social etiquette, and everybody's dressed really nice, and and it's like all about how it looks. It's all about how it feels, how it looks. Everybody just wants to be comfortable and have a lavish, luxurious time. And it's like that person that comes and like brings up, conspiracy theories and like, makes people uncomfortable, which is totally me. By the way, and a lot of people were like, that's me. And I'm like, that's you, because that's also me. And, that's probably why we vibe. But that's what I mean. But for a different example, okay, let's say it's somebody that comes and brings up politics, and it's politics that you don't agree with, right? It's politics that you're not on the side of, right? You're not on that side. They're on the opposite side, okay? So that's what I mean. Venus, so it's like we almost have one last social challenge before we really are enjoying the fruits of our labor and birthing in, these new desires and these new manifestations, and really embracing and embodying our feminine goddess energy, all of that. It's like we have a few more things we have to address socially. And I think that these are going to be deep, dark, unconscious, Pluto and Aquarius, social things that are coming up. And we could feel them on an individual level. We could feel them on a collective level. It could even just be our own perception of what society is, or society expects of us, or other people expect from us, or friends expect from us, etc. But Venus and Taurus is kind of like, I want quality in my life. And, I feel like I'm at a place where I want to enjoy this quality in my life. I want to sit here half naked in my throne and eat grapes. And, but maybe other people look at me like I'm too privileged, or I am too rich, or I think I'm better than other people if I do that. Or I, somehow have had it all handed to me, like things like this. I think it's really going to go into like social stuff versus, again, like things that we have, things that we accumulate, things that we, again, material things, right? Versus social dynamics, social, rules, basically, like these kind of social kind of dynamics that we have in the world. And it's like, oh, I'm scared to enjoy this. I'm scared to eat this fruit that I grew, okay? That I walked through hell to grow, that I planted and I watered and I nurtured and I fought back animals and bugs and all of this, Venus and Aries, that I got into conflict over, okay? And I'll be damned if society somehow tells me that I'm wrong for it. It's very like Venus and Taurus squaring Pluto and Aquarius. So this is where it's kind of like we are facing some old programming, some old unconscious dynamics about feminine energy, about, what we have, money, quality, wealth, abundance, what that truly means, how society defines that versus how we ourselves individually define that. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the collective. That kind of starts when Venus moves into Taurus. She's going to be really asking us, like, do we define what we desire? What is important? What is our priorities? What is of value? And what our definition is of wealth, abundance, desire, fulfillment, embodiment, materialism, etc., etc. How do we define these things culturally, socially, in terms of our social systems, in terms of our social influences? And even maybe on like a more, depending on where this is happening for you, maybe even from your own family, or from your own roots, or from your own town or city or hometown, or the people in your life, friends. Do you allow other people to make you kind of feel guilty for the things that you desire and want? And so these are some of the topics I definitely could see us starting to play with, starting to come up Thursday onward until Venus really perfects that Pluto square and then moves past it, which will be next week. And then also on Thursday, we're going to have Mercury here in Gemini, Also, sex, giving a little sextile to Mars, winking over here at Mars, basically. So this really is kind of like a fun, playful sextile where it's like maybe we're having conversations, or we could even be like actually playing games with people or socially in some way. Or we are learning something or receiving some kind of information or giving some kind of information, etc. And we are going about it in a very confident, brave way. And this is the thing. It's so funny. I was just talking about this earlier. I think that so many people are considered like controversial in today's day and age when they are unapologetic, when they're unapologetically themselves, when they are like shamelessly confident and proud of themselves, or like they don't carry any guilt or shame about their self-esteem, or about the fact that they think that they are like, worthy or deserving. And again, this kind of also goes back to like Venus and Taurus and what we're talking about there. But it's really like this Mars and Leo. It's like, do we embrace our sense of confidence and bravado and our sense of, courage, our sense of self-esteem, our sense of feeling good about ourselves? Or do we see it as, do we get aggravated and annoyed when other people do that? And why? Question yourself. Question your thoughts. Question your experiences this month. That's how you really will connect dots and like literally shift your mind. And that's how you'll kind of ride the roller coaster that is this time period. Gemini is very much like a roller coaster. It's, again, a dual sign, a mutable sign. We go up, we go down, we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down. And you can either sit there on the roller coaster and freak out the whole time, right? Which is never fun. Or you can put your hands up and you can let the fuck go and trust that even if you were freaking out, there's not much you can do because you have no control. And this is so funny too, because it's like, when you put your hands up, you literally basically surrender to the roller coaster. You realize that you are on this roller coaster and there is nothing you can do to steer it, to stop it, to slow it down, nothing, right? And so much of our issues come from trying to control a freaking roller coaster. It's like, dude, you don't even have any control over this. This is somebody else's shit, right? Another example of this, and this goes back to what I was talking to earlier about picking up people's shit and not picking it up, we had some like family drama in my family, this past week, and it had nothing to do with me. But because I'm Miss Libra, usually my family is very used to me being the middleman or the peacemaker, right? So both sides will eventually come to me and tell me what the other side did, and can you believe that? And I can't, and I just can't even believe she did that, and she needs to do this, and she needs to do that, and you need to tell her this, and I used to literally, as soon as they'd come to me, I used to just take everything they had and just take it and be like, yeah, it's mine. Okay, I'll take care of it. Meaning, I used to take what they were coming to me, presenting me with all the emotion, all the stress, and then made it my own. So now I'm stressed, and now I'm emotional, and now I'm freaking out because now I've got to deal with conflict that I don't want to deal with, and now I've got to try to help the other person see the other person's side so we can meet in the middle and make peace and yada, yada, yada. And again, it goes back to my own experience being uncomfortable with conflict. Not saying, no, I'm not going to resolve that for you, or not offering to resolve it. I'll give you advice, but it's your problem, your emotions. And we don't do that because we're like, oh, but it's family. Okay, but like, I don't have to take on their feelings and their emotions and everything they're feeling and then stress out about it. It's like, something I've really, really, really been working on and honing in on lately is like not picking up other people's stuff and making it my own, because I can kind of like tell when I do it, because all of a sudden I become stressed about their problems. I become stressed about what they're doing or what they're going through, and then I start thinking of all the worst case scenarios and think that, oh, I need to handle this or control this or somehow steer the roller coaster. And it's like, no, that's That's not mine. I'm not on that roller coaster. I'm on this roller coaster over here. I've got my hands up. Okay. Like and it's not that it's not that I mind helping with problems. Like I am, just as I am on here and just as I am for many of my clients, I am a problem solver. I help my family solve problems, but I can do that without taking on their emotions and making it my own and feeling like, oh my God, if I don't do this, then this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, they're going to be lost, they're going to no, right? No. So when all this like little drama broke out, my family member came to me, was venting to me about it. And I originally at first could feel myself getting kind of like, because I was like in the process of taking it on. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to call so-and-so and I'm going to have to do this and I'm going to have to do that. And this is probably going to like ruin all of this. And what if that happens? And then I was like, wait a second. She never asked you to take this on. But why are you automatically taking it on? This isn't yours. And I realized in that moment that that's what I was doing. And so I dropped it. And I was like, this is hers. She's an adult. She can deal with it. And I'll give her advice. I'll tell her what I think about it, which I did. And it was very helpful. And it actually all ended up working out because of the advice that I gave her. But I don't have to take on the emotion and stress myself out for it and feel what she's feeling and all of that, right? And so that's what I'm talking about. And that also goes into a lot of, I think, the lessons that we're learning at this time period. And it's going to be very important for this time period, but it also has nothing to do with what I was trying to talk about on Mercury sextile Mars. So I kind of got on a tangent there, but Mercury sextile Mars is basically us like kind of accepting and talking and speaking, communicating and experiencing this experience of I am confident in what I'm saying, or I am like, I'm able to assert myself with my words very clearly. And I feel good about it. And it makes me feel confident. Or I'm able to make choices or decisions that I have some that are courageous or that I have some kind of confidence behind. That is like this energy, right? So it can be very fun. It can be very playful. It may be a little bit combative, but I would think more on a playful side, not like, just like joking around or something. So yeah, so that is it for Thursday. Moving on to Friday. So on Friday, we're going to have a moon transit I'm going to talk about only because it's in Scorpio and it's literally right after Venus just moved into Taurus, which I think is really interesting. So we're really going to be feeling that Venus energy. Also, she's starting to square Pluto, and then we have the moon coming in there in Scorpio. And this really reminds me of something that I kind of notice a lot, and that is the quote, "Beauty is pain." And what I mean by that is like, okay, especially in today's society, being a woman and all, right? Hair, nails, makeup, some people get like cosmetic surgeries, like things like that. Like beauty is pain. Potentially exercising, like losing weight, it's like you've got to challenge yourself. You've got to stretch yourself, which is the uncomfortable part, which is the kind of scorpionic part. Like dealing with the emotional loss of something before you can gain something. Taurus. It's like if you want the reward, you also have to there's always a positive and negative, right? If you want the positive, you have to accept that there's a negative charge that comes with it. If you want to gain something, it's like, okay, well, what are you willing to make space for? Because you can't bring that thing into your life unless you've made space for it. So what does that making space part look like? What does the challenge looks like? What does the stretch part looks like? Where's the pain, right? Now, there are things that are like naturally beautiful too, right? So I'm not necessarily saying that everything that's beautiful requires pain, but I mean, I guess in a way you could even say that it does. And even somebody that somebody else would consider just naturally beautiful all the time, for that child to be born, they had to be born, which the birthing process is painful, uncomfortable, right? It's like, flowers, when they grow, they've got to break through the soil, and, butterflies have to go through the cocoon phase. Like, there's always some kind of transformation, or there's always some kind of like friction involved in, getting to a phase of beauty or abundance or pleasure or whatever the case may be, right? It's like again, like I use the kind of analogy, like you can, months ago, it's like you kind of realize that you have like mold growing in your basement. So you just like try to make the top half look pretty, but it doesn't disqualify that you have mold growing in your basement. That's eventually going to make it all not pretty, right? It's like we build these beautiful houses on top of, sewer systems and gutters and like all of this. It's like Scorpio is a lot of the things that we try to hide. It's a lot of the things that, bring about something like loss or something that is less pleasant to deal with or look at or feel or move through. Whereas Taurus is more of the pleasant stuff, right? It's more of like the beautiful Garden of Eden and all of that, and so it's very interesting. So on Friday, we have the moon coming in and opposing Venus, and I think, and again, squaring Pluto in Aquarius, bringing in that social element. It's like, well, what do other people think? What this really reminds me of is like, it's like we have something that we want or that we desire, and then we also have kind of like maybe something that is a bit more forbidden or a bit more kinky in some way. It's like we're learning kind of how to like embrace the darkness with the light. We're learning how to embrace the socially unacceptable with the acceptable. We're learning how to kind of embrace like the deeper, darker, uncomfortable feelings with the more pretty surface level, beautiful stuff, right? And so, I thought that was really interesting, and that's going to give us a very great taste of Venus and Taurus squaring Pluto, literally like the next day on Friday when that all happens. So, okay, then on the 8th, which is Sunday, we're going to have Mercury conjunct Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. And so they're going to move through their conjunction right before Mercury then moves into Cancer, and also right before Jupiter, also moves into Cancer. But this is going to happen Sunday, where Mercury is going to conjunct Jupiter, and then Mercury is going to pass Jupiter and move into Cancer. And so this is going to be really interesting. I think by Sunday, there's going to be this kind of blending, again, like that I've been saying throughout this whole video, this blending of like the small or the finite with the infinite, this blending of looking at things through this finite lens, the puzzle pieces versus the puzzle and the infinite, right? And it's like, again, like the character and the player of the game become kind of one, and we realize kind of this, maybe have this full circle moment where we realize how all of these little snippets, all these little moments, all of these little experiences, puzzle pieces, et cetera, have all kind of like accumulated into this, big lesson maybe, or this big epiphany, or this big understanding of something. It's like we have a newfound higher understanding of something that we maybe didn't before, wherever you have the Gemini house in your chart, okay? And so Sunday is very interesting. Now, we could even be feeling this on Saturday. So it doesn't just have to be on Sunday. Like you could be feeling this Saturday into Sunday, maybe even Friday, into the weekend. But there definitely is something here where it's like a major epiphany, a conversation, something that feels very inspiring, uplifting, expansive, new, that kind of shows us this higher perspective, or this new perception, this new way of looking at something, or this new lesson, or this lesson that's finally like piecing all together, and we're like, oh my God, that's the lesson, or that's the wisdom. It's like we find wisdom in small places, or we find, kind of like a massive new way of looking at the world, or a massive new perspective on something in our lives. Or maybe there's big news. For some people, this could be really big news, or really big conversations, or really big information that kind of comes in that really affects, again, this Gemini area of your chart. So Sunday's going to be really interesting. And then literally, again, Mercury is then going to move into Cancer first, which is going to be really interesting. So Mercury moving into Cancer really means that a lot of our conversations, a lot of the information, a lot of the things that we're going to be hearing about, speaking about, kind of thinking about, are going to relate to more Cancerian themes in the, house in which you have Cancer in your chart. A lot more emotional conversations, a lot more kind of vulnerable talks, and a lot more vulnerable kind of news or information, a lot more topics coming out about homeland, safety, security, emotional safety and security, feeling safe and secure. A lot more talks about opening kind of the heart, motherhood, caregiving, home, family, things like this. So it's going to be a really interesting time with that. And then the very next day, on Monday, on the 9th next week, Jupiter then moves into Cancer as well. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. And this is going to be a very, very interesting transit. And what's interesting about it is that as soon as it moves into Cancer, it starts squaring Saturn again. And I say again because we had a square from Jupiter to Saturn last year, from Gemini to Pisces, which were two mutable signs. So a lot of confusion last year with that square. A lot of letting go, and a lot of new perspectives and seeing new sides of situations and all of that. And then now they meet in cardinal signs. The expansiveness and the ideals that we have in terms of where we feel comfortable, safe, secure, where we want to have, home, stability, security, family, where we want to feel vulnerable with our roots, feeling safe, safe within our roots, safe within our tribe, safe within our familial bonds. Jupiter and Cancer are big ideals and the way that we want to expand in this area of life, versus potentially other complications or other things going on related to individuality, independence, challenge. The way that I kind of see this is, because Saturn's going to be in the superior square here. So the way that I kind of see this is that Jupiter is coming into Cancer and it's exalted here. So it's like, ta-da, bitch, I am at home. I feel good. We are on vacation. I have not been here in a while. It feels great to be back at this beach house. I love it here. I've been coming here since I was a kid. It's so many family memories here. I'm going to kick my flip-flops off and I'm just going to lay back, And Saturn in Aries is like, okay, but this is not challenging enough. You wanted to bet on yourself big. You wanted to, go after the things that you desire. You wanted to work on your fitness and work out hardcore and chase after that career and make your dreams come true and do what you wanted to do. And I love that you're having fun with your family and you feel really good on the beach, but your goals are not getting accomplished, right? And so it's almost like a drill sergeant is getting on you while you're trying to spend time with your family and maybe even build this new life with certain family members or for a family or whatever. It's you are soaking in the emotional support and the emotional safety and the emotional security of, a home life or a family night life or what you desire for your home, safety, security, family life, caregiving, nurturing, all of that. But there's also this kind of this is a push and pull where there's this also challenge or responsibility or duty that you may feel that is potentially heavy or hard or whatever, but that feels like a responsibility that you have or a duty that you have to continue to grow, evolve, to continue to take action, to continue to go after the things that you desire in your life, your own independent ideals, dreams, desires, etc. Or it could feel like there are delays, setbacks, etc. to what you desire or to, ideals that you have or the feelings that you have surrounding home, family, security, safety, etc. And so those are kind of the ways that I see this. It's like, you know, maybe you want to, you know, you have these like really big ideals, dreams to like travel the world, go on these trips, but maybe you end up like putting that off because you're kind of like, you know what, like I just want to go on vacation right now, even though it's short term, and spend time with my family, or I want to build roots right here right now. But it's like in the back of your mind you kind of have this like nagging voice of like, but you have these desires, you have these, you know, this dream, this big ideal about what you want for your future and the actions that you should be taking. And so that's kind of the way that I see this a little bit. So, but we'll talk more about it as the weeks move on, darling. But yeah, I think that this is a time to definitely be flexible, be fluid, be flexible. Don't harp on one thing. Don't get too attached to one thing too much right now. Like, let the winds of Gemini change things around. Don't take things too seriously right now. Be okay with being uncertain. Be okay with not knowing. It's like, I don't know and I don't care. You know, like, I don't know and I don't care. I don't know and I don't need to know, you know, like, I don't know and it feels good to not know, you know, like, you don't have to know it all right now. You don't have to choose anything right now. You don't like feel, again, freedom, Gemini. Feel the freedom of like letting go of putting pressure on the mind and allowing the mind to bounce where it wants to bounce and not needing to control everything, not needing to control the roller coaster. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Comment down below, badass alien, if you are still here and you watched the whole first part of this video. I fucking appreciate you so much. We're going to briefly go over what some of this is going to mean for your rising sign. We're not going to go over all of these transits for each rising sign. We'll just focus on a couple of them. I love you guys. Thank you very much. Next week, I'm going to a music festival. Hello. But I'm still going to be here. I'll still have, you know, the weekly up for you guys, and the Sag full moon video will be coming this week as well. So don't worry about that. And yeah, I love you guys, and let's get into the rising signs. Alrighty, so we are going to go ahead and start with Gemini, since this is Gemini season. I do know I want to go over Venus and Taurus, so we'll start there. Gemini rising. So Venus, the planet of beauty, attraction, love, romance, desire, flirtation, is moving into her home sign of Taurus, which is your 12th house. So this is going to be a time, I think, as you know, being a Gemini rising, where you're already feeling very social. You have your home planet Mercury in your sign, making you probably feel really busy and really like talkative and wanting to make plans, wanting to socialize, thinking a lot about yourself, who you are, your identity, your appearance, your body, like all of that. Thinking about all of the new things that you want to bring into the world, and the sun being in your sign as well. And then we have Venus in your 12th house and in her home sign. And so this is almost kind of like, you know, after a really busy time that's been very, very focused on your external world, your friendships, your career, where you're going, your destiny, like really kind of somewhat heavy stuff. And when I say heavy, I more so just mean like, you know, thinking about the rest of your life, thinking about your future. It's been a lot of what this year has been about for you. Thinking about how you want to lead in the world, how you want to lead others, you know, groups of people, audiences, acquaintances, your network, your aspirations, like where you're going long term. Venus now finally moving into your 12th house is kind of like a breath of fresh air. Even though it is your 12th house and it is somewhat subconscious and hidden and behind the scenes, this would be a really good time to like go on a vacation, go on a retreat, kick back, kick your shoes off, like, you know, feel the beauty, feel the fulfillment. Like this would be you're going to find fulfillment in ways of pulling back, okay? In ways of singularity, kind of going off on your own or doing your own thing. Or you can even bring other people, like you could bring like a partner or, you know, something, or friends or whatever. I would say something that's, you know, someone that you have more of an intimate connection with, but you're going to find fulfillment, abundance, pleasure, enjoyment, all of that by kind of pulling back, going to maybe retreats or going on vacation, or if that's not something that you can like, you know, necessarily afford right now, maybe going to spas or having like a little, like, you know, a mini retreat ritual at your house, cleaning your house, beautifying your house, spending time in nature, okay? Like taking nature walks, taking kind of like, you know, going in the woods, doing some journaling or meditating or something, you know, like things like that are going to be very, very beneficial for you as a Gemini rising with Venus in your 12th, okay? Now, the other big thing that we have this week is Mercury joining Jupiter. So we're going to have the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, which is happening in your sign, Gemini. So it's kind of like reflecting on all these lessons. It's a culmination point of lessons that you have been learning with Mercury, number one, moving through your sign, which has only been a few weeks, but mainly Jupiter moving through your sign for like the last year now, okay? It could feel like there's like a culmination of something clicking for you by the end of this week, by this weekend, by like Sunday. Could be a day or two before Sunday or right on Sunday, but either way, there's something here where it's like, maybe you're finally deciding something. Maybe you're finally clear on something that you've been kind of back and forth on. Maybe you decide to give some kind of news or announcement or finally express something that you've been holding in. Either way, there's some kind of culmination point to do with those things here. The other big thing that we have happening is next Monday on the 9th, Jupiter is finally entering Cancer. This is your second house arena, okay? This is like the familial attachments, the things that you depend on, the things that you feel close to, that you have an emotional connection to, an emotional attachment to. Could be people, things, possessions, you know, whatever. Jupiter's coming here and going to really expand this area for you. It's going to very much be good for money or growing things that have some kind of sentimental value in some way, shape, or form. Now, once Jupiter moves into Cancer, it's going to be squaring Saturn, though, pretty much right off the bat, unfortunately, for about the next week and a half to 2 weeks or so. And that is in your 11th house again of your network, friends, aspirations, big crowds, groups of people, etc. So this could be kind of a time where it's like, and honestly, Jupiter squares aren't always difficult or hard. Saturn usually is though. So it could be like a little bit of a mix of like both positive and some, you know, stuff that is a little bit tense, but it's like you have these kind of like big potential like dreams or big ways in which you want to challenge yourself. It's like you're glamorizing maybe putting yourself to the test in some way to do with other people or to do with groups of people or to do with going after your goals or aspirations in some way. And it's squaring Jupiter. And it's like by doing this, you could also find that you grow your income or grow your sense of assets, or, you know, this somehow positively impacts the things that you depend on in some way, shape, or form, or you start really seeing what you're capable of or what emotionally you're able to do or what like skills that you have through challenging yourself and going after your dreams and aspirations. Okay, so it's going to be a really, really interesting time there for you as a Gemini rising. Let me know down below if any of you guys are feeling any of that so far, or you could see it going in that direction. I would love to hear your feedback and comment down below, sexy Gemini rising, because you are Bill. And we're going to move on to Cancer rising. So for Cancer risings this week, we're going to start with Venus and Taurus. For you, this is your 11th house. This is a really great time with Venus now moving out of your 10th house of career, where you've had to face a lot of confrontation, controversy, friction, you know, within your career and what you want out of your career, but not even just your career, your long-term goals, your long-term desires for your life, your legacy. What do you want for your life? Not what other people want for your life, not what your family wants for your life, not what your relationship wants for your life. What do you want for your life? This has been about kind of coming back to your own self-focused goals, self-focused desires, and putting those first again, even if it means confronting conflict, even if it means confronting friction or, you know, situations that are stressful or edgy or feisty or whatever, confronting maybe authority figures, bosses, managers, etc., that are feisty or confrontational, etc. So this has been about you really working on your leadership skills and desiring to lead more in your life and coming back to leading yourself in your life on more of a public way and more of a you know, I don't know what other word I'm looking for. Public way. You get what I mean. Okay, so now that Venus is moving into Taurus, this is your 11th house of your friends, social circles, network, audiences, groups of people, etc. So you could be spending a lot more time going to events, going out, going and doing things that bring a lot of value, quality, fulfillment, abundance into your life, meeting people that somehow are quality connections or bring some kind of value into your life. What are your priorities when it comes to the types of people in your life? Do they align with your values? So you could find yourself, really kind of, putting your priorities more so first in terms of your relationships. And, but not just any relationships, but like friendships and the people that you hang around, the environments that you hang around. Okay, you could find yourself maybe getting invited to more things or people being more generous or helpful during this time. Now, Venus will square Pluto in your 8th house though. So this could be at first maybe you kind of realizing that there are some financial changes that need to happen to do with some other people in your life, or maybe there are some old blockages, fears, power struggles going on to do with how you look at certain people or certain relationships or friendships or connections that you have in your life in some way. Either way, there's something kind of going on with your finances, power struggles, fears, 8th house arena, and your 11th house arena of friends, social circles, etc. So then the next thing is we have the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction as Jupiter's wrapping up its cycle in Gemini right around Sunday. And that you could experience this on Sunday or a day or two before, but Mercury is going to conjunct Jupiter right as this is happening. And this is your 12th house. So you've been kind of really maybe exploring or having more awareness around your subconscious ideals, old mindset habits or patterns that keep you in unfulfilling cycles or that work against you, self-sabotage you, etc. And so this is kind of like, kind of showing you where your subconscious mind or subconscious tendencies or subconscious boredom, subconscious anxiety, subconscious kind of, annoyances kind of self-sabotage you and get the best of you. And so Jupiter and Mercury are coming together here. This could be a massive epiphany. You're having a massive realization. You're having something that you just kind of feel shifting, but you don't really know completely what it is because it's happening in your 12th house. So it's a little bit subconscious, but either way, there's something here going on with that by Sunday. And then Jupiter's going to move into your sign on Monday and then immediately start squaring Saturn, started square with Saturn and Aries in your 10th. And so when Jupiter moves into your sign, first off, it'll be in your sign for the next year. And that's going to be very helpful because Jupiter's exalted in your sign. This is going to be a very positive, uplifting, inspiring, expansive, idealistic time for you where you really start, I think, changing the views on yourself, changing your beliefs about yourself, and start planting new seeds in terms of who you are, how you see yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you want to be perceived. And I think it's going to help you soften a lot as a Cancer rising. You're going to see yourself in a way like mature and become more wise, but also you're going to see that you value softness, safety, vulnerability, feminine energy, and those sides of you a lot more, and how those sides of you can actually bring new life into your life and into, just your life in general. Now with the square to Saturn though, right away, this here could definitely be bringing up some tension going on in terms of the responsibilities, duties, etc. that you have in terms of your goals, your career, your long-term future. That could feel kind of heavy right now, or it could feel kind of like you have something that is pulling you towards the things that you want, or towards leading your life or leading even others in a more obvious way right now, in a more prominent way right now. But you could also it could either help you expand with this sense of safety and security within yourself with Jupiter in your sign, or it could feel like it's holding you back from expanding and feeling safe and secure within yourself. Because the more safe and secure within yourself you feel, the more confident you feel to lead your life. And I feel like that's really big right now for you guys as a Cancer rising. So I just feel like a lot of you need to hear that for some reason. So let me know down below, Cancer risings, how that's resonating. Comment down below, sexy Cancer rising, as well if you watched until here. I'd love to hear your feedback on that horoscope. So please let me know down below. And we are going to go ahead and move on to Leo risings. For Leo risings, my fellow Leo risings, starting with Venus moving into Taurus, which is our 9th house, or not 9th house, 10th house. It's moving out of our 9th house. Our 10th house sector of career, long-term goals, achievements, what like basically what we want for our future, legacy, all of that. So Venus has been in our 9th house, where we have really been exploring basically our ideals and our beliefs and our outlooks around what we desire, where we're going, what we want out of life, where we have maybe gotten away from our own individual kind of desires and have allowed maybe other influences to kind of creep in, and where it's like maybe it's not necessarily about like, other people necessarily trying to manipulate us. It's just more so where we've allowed ourselves to almost be compromised, like compromise too much of what we want or where we see ourselves going in the world or where we want to be going in the world for others or for our environment or for our location or for our relationships or for whatever the case may be. And we've really had to learn how to trust ourselves and how to bet on ourselves again and how to kind of get back into accepting these beliefs and these ideals that we have for our life and these desires and these bigger desires that we have for our life, where we've kind of been out of alignment with our own principles, morals, beliefs, and how that has kind of held us back from really feeling fulfilled and going after what we really want in our desires. And also where there has been certain challenges with morals, belief systems, worldly outlooks, maybe spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs or, whatever outlooks in terms of our relationships and in terms of other people as well. Now, Venus is now moving into the 10th house, and she's at home in our 10th house. And so this is going to be a very positive time for our career and a very positive time for our reputation, our long-term goals, and the things that we want to build for our future, the things that we want to create for our future. So we could really find ourselves feeling a lot of pleasure in life again and feeling very led by our feminine energy, our creativity, wanting to create a lot more, wanting to build some kind of foundation or build some kind of groundwork for maybe a project for our career or a project for our brand, or we could really find that we want to recreate our kind of public image or our reputation in some way, or like kind of give our life or our career or our brand or our reputation or whatever kind of like a makeover with Venus in the 10th. It's like we really start kind of thinking about what we desire long term and what we need to start planting seeds for to build that. And, also if we've been working on these things already, then we can find ourselves gaining a lot of rewards around this time as well with Venus moving into Taurus. Now, Venus will be squaring Pluto though right off the bat once she moves into Taurus this week on Thursday. And so we could be feeling for like the next week or so as Venus first moves into Taurus, like there are some struggles within our relationships with other people, or the views of other people in our lives and what's socially acceptable or what, other people are going to think or what, something like that. It's like maybe we want to give a lot of our creativity and our energy, like our passion starts returning for our career or a career project or a brand makeover or whatever. But we're like, oh, I don't know how people are going to see that. Or what if people see me differently? Or what if people see me and think that I'm just, I'm too superficial or whatever the case may be. Or what if, like maybe you get really drawn to put a lot of energy in your career and then maybe your partner feels kind of like neglected or whatever the case, like there's something there between our relationships and our long-term goals, our career, that could feel a little bit tense at first or could feel even transformative. Pluto is very transformative as well. So it's like we have to transform something with our relationships or our relationship to our outlook of other people even to get the things that we desire in our career, okay, or with our long-term goals. And so then on Sunday, we will have the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction happening in the sign of Gemini, our 11th house. This is right as Jupiter is finishing its, it's like year cycle through Gemini in our 11th house of our social life, friends, network, audiences, just all of that, right? So like the last year, there's been a lot in terms of where we feel we belong, our friend groups, the different events that we kind of get invited to or influences in our lives or whatever the case may be, like the different, niches that we want to be a part of or that we don't want to be a part of or whatever. And so there, with Jupiter being in detriment there may have been kind of some confusion there, or maybe there's even been some switching around that's happened. With Mercury then conjunct Jupiter, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, the ruler of our 11th, then conjuncting Jupiter, I think by Sunday we're going to have a very maybe aha moment or epiphany or culmination of lessons or wisdom that kind of hit us about this area of our lives. It could be about other people. It could be about our audience. It could be about our, the networks and the genres that we're a part of, or the types of, groups that we are a part of. I know for me, what I've really seen with this is contradictions and in the different movements or the different things that I'm a part of. I may agree with, especially with how politically divided things were last year, for instance, I may agree with some things on, this one movement, but then I also may really feel like I'm a part of this other movement, but both of them would seem like they would conflict each other, right? And that really kind of left me spinning a little bit in terms of well, what does that mean for me? What does that mean about who I am? This, that, and the other. And it's well, what I kind of got from it is that I'm fucking multidimensional and that most humans are, and you can't fit us into a box. And just because I like this doesn't mean that I like everything. Doesn't mean that I like everything to do with that. And just because I like this doesn't mean that I am that whole stereotype either, right? It's been kind of finding the different things that we're a part of, or that we like, and what that means about kind of fitting into that group or not, I know for me, at least now, I don't really consider myself a part of any one group. I just kind of have different things I agree with or of different things, but I'm not the normal stereotype for that thing, so it's I don't know. But anyway, hopefully that makes sense. That's what I've noticed with it. But we may have kind of this culmination point of a lesson that's coming together by the end of this weekend that really kind of, changes our perspective or something. So then we will then also have on Monday, Jupiter finally moving into Cancer. And then right as that happens, it's going to square Saturn. And so Jupiter is moving into our 12th house. And I'm really interested in this because I have looked at the last time that Jupiter was in Cancer, which was around 12 years ago. I believe it was 2014 or 2013, 2014 timeframe. And I know for me, that was not a good time frame. That was it was leading into a really bad time frame for me, but I was not a fan of that time frame. But there were also a lot of other things going on, Saturn was in Scorpio in our fourth house, which is not happening now. But I know that I kind of got thrown into a role that I realized was not the only role for me in this life, which was kind of this caregiver, mom, stay-at-home archetype. And I realized at that time frame that through that whole experience that I needed to have my own passions and my own goals, my own ambitions, that I couldn't just be a mom and that's it. Obviously I'm a mom and obviously that will always be a part of my identity. But I can't be just that. And I realized that at that time. And so basically I kind of look at that and I think Jupiter in the 12th and Cancer definitely can bring out, these nurturing, caregiving, mothering, archetypes or subconscious archetypes, but also where this leads to, because it is the 12th house, self-undoing, and where we can rise above that. So an example of this, because obviously mothering isn't necessarily bad, right? But it can be toxic if it's done in relationships, for instance, right? If you're mothering your partner all the time, they're probably going to start treating you like a mother and start acting like a kid, right? So things like this, because it is the 12th house, it is Jupiter. So I want to say it will be more beneficial in the long run, but it could just be my own, I'm not going to lie, it could be my own biases with the 12th because I have my South Node here. So I know that this house for me can definitely be very spiritual and very intuitive and very tapped in at times, but also can lead to certain things that are karmic, or that lead to, again, self-undoing, self-sabotage, etc. So I think anyway, we're going to be seeing where we need to heal a lot of childhood stuff, where we are potentially releasing a lot of emotion, releasing a lot of, I think releasing things and healing things are going to become a lot easier with Jupiter in the 12th, especially to do with our heart, especially to do with feminine energy, mother's ancestry, family, bloodlines, our heritage, culture, etc. These very Cancerian like topics, these very deep, vulnerable, emotional topics. I think that's going to kind of be the name of the game. Now, with it squaring Saturn, though, I think that this is. We may be like with Saturn in the 9th house, it's like we are feeling kind of, especially there with Neptune, like we're kind of wanting to go after these kind of ideals, dreams that may challenge us, but that give us a sense that we view as giving us a sense of independence, freedom, identity, individuality to find what we believe, or going on this quest, or going on this like hero's journey to discover more about what we believe, to discover more of the unknown, to challenge ourselves, to get out of our comfort zones. Jupiter in Cancer is very much the comfort zone. And so I think that this could really help us kind of uncover a lot of subconscious beliefs that are holding us back from going after the things that we desire and the things that we want, from really embodying and maturing and growing into maybe a teacher archetype, or a, somebody that in some way embodies their principles and beliefs, not saying that we don't, but obviously there's always going to be room for improvement. So anyways, but that's kind of how some of the ways that I see this playing out. I think it's going to be very interesting. Okay, so so that is what I'm saying for Leo risings. Let me know down below, my fellow Leo risings, how that's relating. I'd really love to hear your feedback on that. And then also comment down below, sexy Leo rising, if you watched all of this, because you are. But I'd also still would love to hear your feedback too on that horoscope, so let me know. And moving on to Virgo risings. For Virgo risings this week, we have Venus moving into Taurus, out of your 8th house, where there's been a lot of friction going on with finances and your relationship with financial institutions, your relationships with others regarding finances and what you owe and what they owe you, and et cetera, et cetera. Now Venus is finally moving into her home sign of Taurus in your 9th house. This is going to feel very much more relaxing, very much more sensual. This is going to be you maybe rediscovering your passions again for what you believe, your outlooks on life, what you desire, and finding the beauty in life again. Okay, finding a more grounded, beautiful, pleasant, harmonious viewpoint on looking at the world. Now, on top of that, we also have Mercury coming into its conjunction with Jupiter this week. This is a big deal for you. Mercury is your chart ruler. This is happening in your 10th house of Gemini. And this is a big deal because Jupiter's been here for the last year. It's finishing up its transit here in your house of your career, your long-term goals, your future, where you're going. That's likely shifted a lot over the last year. You've likely, thought you were going in one direction and found out you were going in another. It's very Gemini energy. And Jupiter's been in detriment here. So it's not really been doing the best that it can do here. And so with that being said, though, with Mercury meeting Jupiter by the end of this week on Sunday, you could have some big epiphany. You could finally see something clearly. You could finally kind of gain some kind of higher knowledge, wisdom about all of this, about your career, about your future, about where you're going. That could, be some kind of culmination, or it could be some kind of news, announcement, information that comes in as well. And then Jupiter is going to move into Cancer on Monday on the 9th, where it will then immediately square Saturn in your 8th. And so when Jupiter moves into Cancer, this is your 11th house of other people, friends, your network, audiences, etc. This is about maybe branching out to create more emotional bonds with people that you relate to, or that feel, like family, or that you feel you can be more vulnerable with. Kind of putting your heart out there more. Mercury will be here too, your ruling planet, kind of speaking from your heart more, speaking about your vulnerabilities more, speaking about your feelings more. Now there will be the square to Saturn. So you may find that at first that can feel difficult, or you could find some setbacks or delays or some inner tension, potentially financially, or potentially to do with fears, power struggles, phobias, etc., that are holding you back from kind of, putting yourself out there or branching out in some way. But, eventually these squares will release over like the next couple weeks, and you won't be, feeling those squares as much anymore. But that is what I'm seeing for you, Virgo risings. Let me know down below if that relates and how that relates. I'd really love to hear your feedback. And comment down below, sexy Virgo rising, because you are. Okay, moving on to Libra risings. Venus, your ruling planet Libra, is finally moving out of your opposite sign of Aries, your relationship sector, where she has been for months, since literally February. You have probably dealt with all kinds of ups and downs and challenges and setbacks and confrontations and friction and challenges to do with your relationships, to do with other people, to do with what you want versus what they want, all kinds of different things, okay? This has definitely been a time where you have really been challenged to, figure out if certain relationships in your life are really aligned with what you want or aligned with your idea of, what you want for your future or not, your idea with love, your values, your priorities, etc. And so Venus is now moving into Taurus, her home sign, and this is really good for you since you're Venus ruled. She's moving into her other home sign in your 8th house. So this is going to be a time where you may start finally seeing a lot of stability, security coming in financially, a lot more gains financially, a lot more help maybe financially. Things can get a lot more harmonious financially for you, and you can finally start to feel like you maybe have a little bit more of a grounded, secure, comfortable foundation to stand upon here. This could be money that's owed to you coming in, or your partner's finances if you're still in a relationship, kind of getting better or smoothing out or becoming more consistent or grounded or something, Either way, this is going to be really, really good for you financially and really, really good for intimacy as well, and bringing more of a sensuality, smoothness, comfortability back into your relationships again, and, your connections with other people. Now, on top of that, Mercury and Jupiter are going to be conjuncting this week. This is in your 9th house. This could be some big news, a big aha moment about your belief systems, information, or an epiphany that you're having, or a decision that you're making, something along those lines that is really this massive culmination of the last year of Jupiter's transit through your 9th house. This could have something to do with higher education, travel, kind of like your own outlooks, your own belief systems, etc. And then on the 9th, on Monday, Jupiter will then move into Cancer, finally, and this is your 10th house. So this is a really, really good thing for you as a Libra rising. This is going to be very expansive in terms of your career. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So this is going to very much be about you finally creating your own ideals and really planting your own seeds in terms of, and really creating your own kind of, your own view of what you want in your future and your career and with your long-term goals. So if you want to feel more safe, secure, comfortable in your career, this is going to be the time where that really expands and becomes noticeable, and that becomes the thing that you're kind of working towards. If your desires to kind of have a family and that kind of be your legacy and that kind of be your thing, that's what you're going to be really focused on and drawn to with Jupiter moving through your 10th. Now, with Jupiter moving into Cancer, though, it is going to square Saturn as soon as it moves in. That square is going to be going on for the next week or two. So with that being said, there is kind of this expansion happening in your career and this newfound kind of freedom and breath of fresh air happening there, these new ideals coming in there, this new energy coming in there. But there's also still something going on with other people or relationships that can feel like it is potentially not worked out, or potentially delaying things, or potentially challenging, or potentially bringing in some friction or holding something back in some way. The way that I could see this going is you have realized all these things with Venus moving in, through your 7th house of what you desire for your life, right? But you've realized that your partner and you maybe are on the same page, or not on the same page. This is just one example, okay? So I'm not saying everybody went through this, but maybe you realize that you and your partner have different priorities. You're not on the same page about what you really want. And this Jupiter-Saturn square is really going to bring that up for you to either resolve it and figure it out, or for you to realize that it's not going to work or whatever, whatever the case may be for different ones of you. But and Saturn and Neptune in your 7th as well is trying to help you realize, what do you want for the long haul? What do you want for your relationships? What is your dream relationship? And Saturn, are you willing to commit, put in the work to get it? But that doesn't mean that you only commit for like a small amount of time and then just give up, or that doesn't mean that you unhealthily stay in a relationship that is continuously not working and it's been forever now, like it's like different lessons. It'll be different lessons for different Libra risings, but Jupiter in Cancer is really kind of magnifying and expanding and showing you like your North Star. It's like, hey, this is what you want and it's time to really blow it up and expand that. Saturn in the 7th is like, well, what are the sacrifices, responsibilities, duties, etc. within your relationships, and how are they conflicting with that, right? And so that's kind of what I'm seeing for Libra risings. Let me know down below. And I mean, Jupiter squares are not always difficult as well. It could be that through you like kind of making this commitment within your relationships, and committing to the dream and the ideals that you have about your relationship and what you want out of your relationship, that ends up expanding like your future and your long-term goals and what you want out of your life and like all of that, your career. So anyway, it could go various ways, but let me know down below, Libra risings, how you guys are seeing this play out. If you feel like you could see this coming, how it's relating, all of that I want to know. Comment also down below, sexy Libra rising, and let me know that you watched until now. I appreciate you. Sorry, my nose is a little stuffed up right now. I'm like coming off of a cold if you didn't watch the beginning, but okay. Moving on to Scorpio risings. For Scorpio risings, this, this week we have Venus finally moving out of Aries and moving into your 7th house of Taurus, your relationship sector. So this is going to be a really, really harmonious time for you now for your relationships. You've put in a lot of work in terms of your work, habits, health, diet, routines, all of that with Venus moving through your 6th house on and off for like the last several months now. Had to face a lot of conflict, friction, challenge in that area. Now with Venus moving into your 7th, this is going to be very harmonious for your relationships. You may notice that like, good things are happening to your partner, for instance, or you may notice your partner becoming, more, lovey-dovey or wanting to spend time with you more, or maybe buying you something or buying you a gift or something, or you guys going on dates, etc. This is going to be very, very good for your relationships pretty much. And you may start feeling more kind of at home, more comfortable, more sensual within your relationships, more flirty within your relationships. You may start feeling a lot more feminine energy within your relationships. And so on top of that, we also have Mercury and Jupiter coming into their conjunction this week, right as Jupiter is finishing its year-long transit in Gemini. This is happening around Sunday. This may be some kind of news, information, or big epiphany, big culmination of a lesson that is occurring in terms of your 8th house. So this could be about finances, money, other people's money, assets, things that you owe or things that are owed to you, power, as well. The 8th house can kind of be about and your connections and karmic connections with other people. So these are some of the topics that you could really see get brought up by Sunday, and you could kind of have maybe, something that you've been working on for a while finally clicks or finally happens or finally goes through or finally you get the news about it or something like that. I could see that happening for a lot of Scorpio risings. And then on the 9th, we have Jupiter then moving out of Gemini and into Cancer, which is your 9th house. This is going to be really good for you if you're a Scorpio rising in terms of you getting very, very idealistic with what you want in terms of like your outlooks, your belief systems, what you believe, your morals, like what are you here to do in this life? Like what is your mission? What is your purpose? What do you believe about why you're here and what you're doing? Like you getting realigned with that on an intuitive level. A lot of you guys can maybe sign up to go on some kind of intuitive journey or to travel more or to visit other cultures, visit other kinds of places, or visit even in places that you feel intuitively drawn to that feel like home, even though you've never been, things like that could really happen here. You could be exploring new belief systems, new educational pursuits, things like that as well. Now, Jupiter will square Saturn when it first moves in, though, for the next couple weeks. And Saturn is, again, in your 6th house. And so that is really kind of like a push and pull in a lot of ways. Like Saturn is kind of pushing you and challenging you in terms of your health, diet, work, your day-to-day routines, tasks, duties, responsibilities that you have, and wanting to kind of challenge yourself here. Like this would be a great time to like quit habits, get rid of things that are just no longer serving you, and to challenge yourself to do hard things that you just want to be careful not to overdo it or not to hurt yourself, right? With Saturn, because Saturn is in its detriment in Aries. And so with Saturn, though, squaring Jupiter, this could be that through you kind of challenging yourself, through you kind of really getting maybe more serious about discipline or serious about ambition, like things that you're ambitious about or passionate about, or like your diet or routines or habits or like whatever work responsibilities, duties that you're working on or doing, that you actually kind of become more in tune with certain like new belief systems or a new way of looking at the world or something, or by you doing that, by you really challenging yourself and going hardcore into something, it could also in some way, shape, or form feel like it kind of pushes you to want to travel more or something like that, right? Or maybe you're challenging yourself with like work or something that you're working on, and that kind of pushes you to kind of reestablish and realign with your outlooks, your views, your morals, etc. Right? So those are some of the different ways that it could play out. So let me know down below, Scorpio risings, how you guys are noticing that play out. I'd love to hear your feedback. As always, comment down below sexy Scorpio rising, because you are. And we're going to move on to Sag risings. So for Sag risings this week, we have first off Venus moving out of Aries, out of your fifth, where you have been learning how to basically not be scared to assert your desires, to be more playful, to tap into your inner child, to tap into your passions, to tap into the things that are fun, even if it feels somewhat selfish to do so, or even if it feels like other people may not like it or may not agree with it or may not be on board or may not understand, right? And so you've been learning a lot about that recently. It's also been very much teaching a lot of lessons in love and flirtation and dating and romance and passion and sexuality and all of that as well. And so then Venus moves into her home sign of Taurus, which is your sixth house sector. And this is really going to be a time where you start really getting back into some kind of harmony with your day-to-day rituals, routines, work, habit, diet, job, etc. Your health, right? You start really kind of wanting to feel fulfilled and abundant in terms of your health. You start wanting to feel wealthy in terms of, your body and your schedules and the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, how you are configuring your life and your responsibilities and your duties, how you are taking care of yourself. Self-care is going to be huge, okay? Self-care and doing the physical, earthly things that really bring you a sense of wealth from the inside out, abundance from the inside out, that make you feel like, like that give you a sense of worth, that give you a sense of value, that give you a sense of like feeling good, pleasure, experience, etc., right? So these are going to be very big topics I think you start to notice this week as Venus moves into Taurus. And then on Sunday, we're going to have Mercury and Jupiter coming into their conjunction in your seventh house of Gemini, right as Jupiter is finishing its transit in Gemini for the last year. This has been in your seventh house. So relationships have probably been a bit wacky since last year. A lot very confusing, contradicting, hypocritical, a lot going on, very busy, maybe not making a lot of sense, things like that. And so you've probably just been trying to figure out like, where do you belong? Where do you fit in? Where do you not? All of that. So with Mercury joining Jupiter here, this can really be a big light bulb moment, a big epiphany, a big kind of lesson learned coming in by the end of this week where it's like, I get it now. Or maybe there's some kind of news, decision, choice that is announced or that becomes kind of set in stone by the time this week's over. That is like, okay, I'm finally choosing this and that's where I'm going, right? Or maybe somebody else in your life, announces something or chooses something or whatever. And so that could be going on by the end of this week. And then on Monday next week, Jupiter then officially moves into Cancer, where it will then start to square Saturn for the next couple weeks. So Jupiter moves into your eighth house of Cancer. And this is going to be a very good time for expanding your income opportunities, expanding your wealth, your assets, finances, business, how you kind of relate with other people in terms of your transactions, your relationship, your transactional relationships in your life, but not only that, the karmic relationships in your life as well. The relationships in your life that, that you feel in some way emotionally connected to and the karma that comes with that. Okay, like the cause and effect. And so Jupiter moving into your eighth house is definitely going to be a really great time for expanding your wealth, expanding assets, expanding the things that are important to you. Now, with that being said, like I said, it is going to square Saturn at first, and Saturn is in your fifth house of love, romance, dating, your passions, your hobbies, the things that you desire, entertainment, having fun. Saturn's teaching you a lot of lessons here. And so Jupiter coming in here and squaring Saturn could be the start of some of those lessons for sure, if they haven't started already, where maybe you commit to something for the sake of fun or for the risk or for the entertainment. With Neptune there, you've had this kind of ideal around it, or you're feeling kind of lured or attracted to it. Then Jupiter kind of, squares Saturn, and there's this like contraction that either leads to an expansion, or there's this expansion because of there's a contraction in some way, shape, or form. So something to do with maybe money, finances, other people's money, and resources versus fun, entertainment, the things that you enjoy, children, passions, hobbies, dating, romance, etc. So there's something there with expansion and contraction, or something happening that leads to something else with that square with Jupiter and Saturn by the end of this week. So let me know down below, Sag Risings, how you are, or it's going to technically start next week, I should say. But let me know down below how that resonates and what that may feel like for you guys. I'd really love to hear your feedback on how you guys see that playing out, or could see that playing out. Let me know down below, and comment down below Sexy Sag Rising, because you are. Moving on to Capricorn risings. For Capricorn risings, we have Venus moving into Taurus this week, her home sign. This for you is your 5th house arena. This is a beautiful, beautiful place to have Venus, especially after having her in her detriment in your 4th house, in an angular house. Since February of this year, you've had to go through a lot in terms of confrontations, conflicts, friction with family, with what you want, with what you desire, with relationships, family relationships, in terms of your living situation. All of that, there's probably been a lot of friction going on there in the home and personal and family life and the private life. And now Venus is finally moving into her home sign of Taurus in your 5th house. This is definitely where you're going to start really feeling more of a focus on pleasure, entertainment, fun, beauty, sensuality, like really stopping and enjoying the moment and having fun and diving into your creativity, diving into your passions, and really focusing on your values and the things that bring you a sense of fulfillment and abundance in your life. And so that's really going to be the start of that this week. And then also, other than that, we're going to have Jupiter and Mercury coming into their conjunction right as they're both about to leave Gemini. And this happens on Sunday. This is in your 6th house. So this could be some kind of like final decision or final lesson or final epiphany or final big, kind of news coming in to do with your 6th house arena, lessons that you've been learning here for the past year now, in terms of your health, diet, discipline, duties, responsibilities, work life, etc. So it's like if there's been something, a series of lessons you've been learning there, they could really come to a culmination point in some way by the end of this week. You could see those topics really coming up, or something kind of finally coming in, or finally, breaking through, or even like a decision that you're making, or some kind of clarity that you're getting, or some kind of aha moment coming in, or some kind of news coming in by the end of this week to do with those 6th house topics. Then on the 9th, next Monday, we have Jupiter finally moving out of Gemini, like I said, and into Cancer, your 7th house arena. So relationships were probably really, really, really difficult for the first part of this year, with Mars moving through your 7th and retrograding there. And Jupiter now is moving into your 7th, and this is a whole different energy. Jupiter is exalted here. So this is going to be like a massive release of whatever funky stuff Mars left behind. If relationships are feeling very hard or moody or sensitive or vulnerable or, emotional or whatever in the first part of this year, Jupiter is finally moving in, and Jupiter is going to help really expand this area of your life, help you let go of whatever is, keeping you, blocked here or stuck here or whatever. And it's going to kind of expand your intimate and close relationships and your emotional bonds with the people in your life. And so, but it is going to square Saturn first. And so that really means that, Saturn's in your 4th house of home and family now, your personal life. There could be some kind of newfound lessons that you're learning here, some kind of stuff that's going on here with your home, family, personal life, living situation. What you want versus what other people want, you kind of trying to lead that situation or be in charge of that situation, or lessons to do with leadership in terms of your personal life, your home, family life. And with the square to Jupiter, it could be that certain things that are happening are leading to growth in your relationship, or leading to an expansive, expanding your bond in your relationship or within your marriage or whatever. Or it could feel like, you're wanting to kind of grow your relationships, but there are certain setbacks or delays or certain things that you're kind of needing to focus on, or that you're feeling responsible for in terms of your home, family, and personal life. And so that is what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn rising, for this week. Let me know down below how all of that is resonating. I'd love to hear your feedback, and also comment down below, sexy Capricorn rising, but really do let me know how all that is resonating, because I do want to know. Okay. Moving on to Aquarius risings, for you guys, Venus is moving out of your 3rd house this week and into your 4th house, where she is at home finally. This is really good for you. This could be a time where you find that you're redecorating, that you are kind of maybe giving your home a makeover, or that you are renovating, or that you are working on some personal creative things behind closed doors. Maybe you're planting a garden, or maybe you're making your house feel more like bringing more nature, greenery into your house in some way, right? But this is a really good time where you're going to be feeling a lot more in your element at home. You're going to be feeling a lot more like comfortable, peaceful, harmonious, sensual in terms of your home life. You're going to be really looking at your foundation with a sense of like, wow, I really have like a lot of value here. The things that I value, the things that I admire, the things that I love are all here. And really focusing on that sense of value, priority, worth, fulfillment, abundance in terms of your home, family, and personal life. Okay, and so other than that, we also have Mercury and Jupiter coming into their conjunction in your 5th house. You have been dealing with a year-long Jupiter transit in detriment in your 5th house of your hobbies, passions, entertainment, fun, dating. And so there may have been a lot of contradiction, confusion here in this area of life in some way, where you haven't really known what to do with it, or there's not been a lot of clarity. And now with Jupiter and Mercury meeting right as they're about to leave Gemini, it's like there's some kind of clarity finally coming in this week. It's like the big is coming with the small. The bigger lessons are coming in through smaller ways, or the smaller lessons are coming in through bigger ways, one of the two. But it's like maybe there's something finally clicking here. Maybe you're realizing something, you're having an epiphany, or you're finally deciding to maybe start working on a hobby again, or start doing something that you used to love, or start learning something again that you got out of, or maybe you're finishing, a certain hobby or project or something, like something like that. There's some kind of culmination point, lesson, decision, kind of mental shift happening here with that by the end of the week. And then on Monday, Jupiter officially moves out of Gemini and into Cancer, your 6th house, where it's exalted. This is going to be a really expansive time for your job, your day-to-day routines, and your health and your habits, where you are going to be really probably seeing very clearly where you have certain attachments that may be holding you back. And you're able to release those, and then you're able to kind of grow and expand the things that you really actually care about in terms of your health, your wellness, self-care, in terms of your job, your routine, the work that you do on a day-to-day basis, your tasks, your responsibilities. So it's going to be a really good time to maybe get back into yoga, or get back into, or get into some kind of self-care regime, that you had gotten out of, to kind of expand that life of, habits and responsibilities and all of that, to make you feel more in flow and more intuitive in that area. Kind of following your intuition with things that maybe you've known you needed to do for a long time, but you've just been procrastinating on or putting off. And it's like that becomes very clear to you what you need to do by that time. Now, it will be squaring Saturn in your 3rd house. So this could be brought on by certain environments that you're surrounding yourself with, or certain challenges or things that you're doing or that you're learning about, certain new lifestyle kind of goals or challenges that you're really getting into. And so, yeah, that is what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius rising. Let me know down below how all that's resonating, though. I'd really love to hear your feedback on that and hear, how much of that is feeling accurate for you guys right now. So please let me know. And then also comment down below, sexy Aquarius rising, because you are. Alrighty, moving on to Pisces risings. For Pisces risings this week, we have Venus moving into Taurus and out of Aries finally. She has been in your 2nd house, really pushing you to focus on what you want for you, boo, depending on yourself, leading yourself, trusting yourself, which has potentially been very hard and come with some conflict and some challenge and some stress and some controversy. And, Yeah, it's like you've really been pushed to kind of assert yourself, assert your values, go after the things that you want, put your values first, lead yourself, trust yourself, right? Now, Venus is finally moving out of your second and into your third. And this is going to be a time where you're really going to finally be able to like slow down and stop and smell the roses. This is going to be a really good time to get out more, do things that make you feel good. Like go to your favorite restaurant, go to your favorite coffee shop, like go to the library, start gardening, start, really embracing and embodying the things that you love, the skills that you have. Go to that nature park, lay out in the sun, go meditate under the trees, like whatever it is, it's like really just enjoying the moment. It's really living in the now. It's really living in the present. It's really coming back down to like your life here and now and your environment and kind of beautifying your lifestyle, your day-to-day life, your environment, and like soaking it up and embracing your senses and embracing the pleasure in your day-to-day life. And so that's really what Venus is kind of going to be teaching you moving through your third house, like feeling fulfillment and abundance on a day-to-day basis, embodying it in your day-to-day life and in your environments and in the here and now. And then also this week, we're going to have Mercury conjunct Jupiter right as they're both about to leave Gemini. And Jupiter's been in Gemini for like a year now. So this is kind of big. This is kind of some kind of big culmination point, epiphany, news, decision, moment of clarity, lesson learned, something that is really coming in here to do with your fourth house of Gemini, of home, family, relatives, or not relatives, the people that you live with, whether it's family or not, your past and your personal life, your private life. It's like you've been learning a series of lessons in this area for the last year that may have felt somewhat confusing at times with Jupiter and detriment. And it's like now those lessons are really starting to connect and make sense. It's like the puzzle pieces are all kind of connecting and you're kind of finally seeing the bigger picture, right? And so that could be happening by Sunday. It could be maybe some kind of news or decision or information or, like I said, epiphany, light bulb moment, aha moment, lesson learned kind of thing. And then by Monday next week, Jupiter will then move out of Gemini and into Cancer, where it will then start squaring Saturn. And, Jupiter in your fifth house is exalted here in Cancer. The first thing I want to say is fertility, baby, with this one. The fifth house is already about children, sexuality, dating, love. Literally Cancer is about, children or motherhood, nurturing, caregiving. So these qualities are going to be very, very, very prominent and expanded during this time. And so if you're looking to do those things, it's going to be a great time for that. If you are not, I would just be a bit on the lookout, be a bit cautious, have that in the back of your mind, because it's going to definitely be a time where it's going to be fertile, and not even just for actually like creating a child, but also for even just mothering yourself, your own inner child, bringing things into the world through your creative abilities, following your intuition, following the things that you feel drawn to, your passions, your hobbies, things that entertain you, all of that, right? Like that's going to be really big as well. Now with the square to Saturn, Saturn's in your second house in Aries, there with Neptune. And so you're also getting taught even more lessons here about being responsible for yourself, kind of creating your own life, creating your own circumstances, creating your own money, creating your own assets, creating your own resources, right? Like that's what this is all about. And what you actually want to achieve in this area and really challenging yourself in this area. With the square to Jupiter, by you being more responsible and trusting yourself and creating those circumstances for yourself, it could bring you just this new sense of enjoyment and expansion in your life. It could bring you or help you birth something new into the world, whether that be an actual baby or whether that actually just be like a creative project or a creative pursuit or an artistic endeavor or a business or whatever the case may be, And so that is what I'm seeing for you, Pisces risings. Let me know down below how that is relating and resonating. I'd really love to hear your feedback on that, truly. So please let me know and comment down below, sexy Pisces rising, because you are. Okay, moving on to Aries risings. For Aries risings, Venus is going to be moving into your second house of Taurus, where she is finally at home and out of your sign. I'm sure the last few months have been very eventful since February with Venus moving through your sign and being in detriment there. She's been there on and off since February. And so you've had probably a lot of lessons in embodiment and feminine energy, embracing what you desire, being magnetic and self-care, self-love, all of that focusing on yourself, focusing on what you desire, your appearance, your style, your body, beauty, etc. And so with Venus now moving into Taurus at where she's at home in your second house, the focus is going to shift a lot to what do you really value? What is really worth something to you? What are your real priorities in life? Where do you find abundance and fulfillment in life? Where are you, like, this is like going to be a really great time to feel more connected to and comfortable with depending on yourself and your own sense of stability, security, your own resources, your own assets, and really focusing on that and reprioritizing your life in a way that feels more in alignment with you. Really setting up the groundwork for the things that you desire and the things that you want to manifest, setting up the kind of earthly material things that you desire in your life. So this could be definitely a time where you decide to, purchase something new that's, more material, that feels like, a good purchase or something that is really of value to you. This could be a good time where you really start to reprioritize and put your values and your, resources, kind of first and really focus on them. Especially after the lessons that we've had the last couple months with things moving through Taurus, in May and all of that anyway. So anyway, other than that, we also have Jupiter and Mercury coming into their conjunction this week, right as they are about to move out of the sign of Gemini, where Jupiter has been since last year. And so this is, a huge, especially in your third house, I could see this as like a massive epiphany, some kind of big news, some kind of big conversation, event, culmination point, culmination lesson, maybe something you were learning or a skill that you were learning kind of coming to a close or culmination in some way. Maybe a transportation device like a car, or I don't know why I called it a transportation device, but third house can deal with something with that too, like maybe something coming to a culmination with a car, or maybe a project that you were been working on, or something to do with your environment, siblings, relatives, etc. There's something here that is coming to kind of a culmination point, an aha moment, an epiphany, something along those lines, lesson learned kind of thing. Maybe you're announcing something, maybe you decide to move locations, these are different ways that this could play out. Anyway, other than that, we then have Jupiter on the next day, on Monday the 9th, leaving Gemini for good and moving into the sign of Cancer, your fourth house. It's going to be a massive, expansive time for bringing in new life into your foundation, your roots, your family, your home life, the emotional bonds, ancestry, bloodlines, culture, where you come from. This is going to be a massively expansive time in that area of your life. A lot of Aries risings could be buying a new home, settling down, really focused on growing a family, or growing even just like a nest or a foundation, a sense of feeling safe, secure, at home in your life. That's what this is really going to be about. But Jupiter will be squaring Saturn in your sign, Aries. And so there may be some kind of responsibility. It's like you taking on some kind of responsibility, taking on this kind of duty. And through that, you are growing your family, or you are growing, your home life, or you're growing a sense of, security, safety, etc., in your personal life in some way, shape, or form. And so it's like, there could be kind of like this contraction that you're taking on, or this responsibility that you're taking on to do that, to lead to an expansion in some way. So anyways, but those are some of the ways it could play out. Let me know down below how you're feeling this, Aries risings. I'd really love to hear your feedback as always. So please do let me know if any of this felt like it landed with you. And then also comment down below, sexy Aries risings, because you are. I appreciate you guys. And we're going to move on to Taurus risings, last but not least. Okay, Taurus risings. This week we are going to have Venus moving into your sign and out of your 12th house, where she has been on and off since February. And so it's been probably a bit of an uneasy time with your ruling planet moving through your 12th and being in detriment. It's like maybe you've had to give up a lot, or sacrifice a lot, or let a lot go from the past, or in terms of things that you wanted, or in terms of, where you're comfortable. Face a lot of subconscious conflict, or hidden conflict, or even hidden enemies. 12th house can be somewhat hidden enemies, or areas where you work against yourself, self-undoing, self-sabotage, old patterns, habits, addictions, cycles, etc. Venus now moving into your sign is going to feel so much better. You're going to feel like you are finally coming home from being, off just traveling in a place that you were not very comfortable, like Venus coming back into your first house is going to be like, oh my gosh, that's right. That's who I am. Like, it may not happen right on Thursday this week, but you will feel it building over the next couple weeks as she, continues to move through your sign. It will definitely feel like you are more in tune with yourself, more in tune with your feminine energy, more in tune with your body, your style. It's like, just coming back to yourself in a lot of ways and feeling more comfortable in your skin, feeling more magnetic, feeling more in your feminine energy, feeling more in your pleasure and your sensuality, and you're just in harmony with yourself, right? And so other than that, Venus will square Pluto at first when she first moves in, and that square will perfect next week though. So this could be that you finally are coming home feeling at home with yourself, but there's been a lot of changes in your life, Pluto in the 10th. There's been a lot of changes in terms of, power dynamics, socially, career, reputation, long-term goals, achievements, what others may think, or, what people may think in your career. And so maybe you start coming back home to yourself, but you're like, oh, am I free to be myself? What is the world going to think about this? Or what are other people going to think about this? And I think that's going to be some of it, a little bit of a tension some of you guys might be working through, or start working through this week. Other than that, we also have Mercury and Jupiter coming into their conjunction this week, right before Jupiter moves out of Gemini for good, and into Cancer. And so this is going to be really interesting. Jupiter and Gemini, Jupiter and Mercury are coming together, which could really create some big ideals that are pieced together by smaller things, right? With this being in Gemini, with Mercury, like I've been saying kind of through this whole video, like Mercury is like the puzzle pieces, Gemini is like Jupiter is like the whole puzzle together, so it's like there's some kind of aha moment, epiphany, lesson learned, culmination point, news, information, etc. that really comes in by the end of this week to do with your finances, resources, income, things that you depend upon, that lessons you've been learning in this area since last year that are kind of coming full circle by the end of this week. Other than that, the next thing we have is that, again, Jupiter's moving into Cancer on Monday the 9th next week. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I do these on Monday nights. And so, so anyway, Jupiter moves into Cancer and then immediately starts squaring Saturn in your 12th house in Aries. And so first, Jupiter moving into Cancer in your 3rd house, this may be, you'll definitely feel this, but this is your 3rd house. So it's not going to be as probably noticeable right away for you. The 3rd house really deals with your environment. So with Jupiter moving into your 3rd, you may notice start to eventually notice more of an expansion and more of a prominence of your environment. Do you feel like home where you live, in your neighborhood, in your city, in your state, in the area that you live in the town that you live in, on the street that you live, like things like that, right? Could bring up a lot of stuff to do with siblings, family, etc. Maybe family comes to move near you to help or take care of something. Cancer is the caregiver, Cancer is the nurturer, Cancer is the life bringer, and Jupiter in Cancer wants to kind of birth new life. And so for a lot of Taurus risings, I could see either maybe family moving near you guys, or you kind of moving somewhere that feels more like home eventually throughout the next year, throughout this transit. You could find that you start wanting to be more in environments that relate, that you feel emotionally connected to, sentimental places, that have sentimental value to you, right? Now, Jupiter will be squaring Saturn at first over the next couple weeks in your 12th house, and Neptune's there as well. And so this could be that, there's some kind of deep, maybe subconscious independence that you have been craving, and that leads you to, potentially, or even some maybe deep subconscious independence that not that necessarily you've been craving, but karma that you are now being freed from with Saturn and Neptune in your 12th in Aries. Like maybe at some point you kind of moved away from family or from everybody. And then now you're like, you know what? I have learned what I can from that karma. I've learned what I can from kind of being the outcast or being alone or whatever. And now I kind of want to be near people again, or I kind of want to be near people I love or care about again, or whatever. Like that's one of the ways that this could work out, right? Either way, though, that is basically what is happening this week. So let me know down below, Taurus risings, if any of that sounds like it's going to be relating to you guys. I'd really love to hear your feedback down in the comments, please. Really, really means a lot to me when you comment. And also comment down below, sexy Taurus rising, because you are. And with that being said, that is it for this video. This is a long weekly. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you. I just wanted to give you guys a bit more since it is I didn't get to do the June monthly horoscope. So anyways, I love you guys, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.